What y'all have witnessed, I hope you understand. When true worship goes forth, the Most High is in the midst. Is he not? Wait till we get to Samuel. You are going to learn what worship looks like. And it looks something like that. That your ancestors, how they would worship is they would, I'm going to use the word, pontificate about the glory of the Most High. What the Most High used to do for them. How he delivered them. Words of adoration. And they worshiped without any reservation. Who was around? Who wasn't around? Who was logged in online or not? They did it because the Most High meant something important to them. And because of that, all they could do is what out of the depth of their spirit, express the gravitas and their gratitude towards the Most High. I thank the Most High for Ambassador Kevin Holman. As he brings a level of worship from a Hebraic standpoint every single week, without fail. When you go to your favorite sporting event, they sing what? The national anthem. These are our anthems for our nation that we sing here. It's not religious. It's about implanting in you a way of life. The teaching that comes off this stage falls in line with the word prophecy. You should not be scared to use that word, because when you look at your prophets, they spoke nothing but text. Text, text, text. And they lamented over the text. They meditated over the text. So I acknowledge Ambassador Kevin Holman. I acknowledge, first and foremost, the highest dignitary that can show up today, who is Yahweh. Is Yahweh present? Oh, okay. All right. Let's try that again. We're going to run a bootleg left. Then we're going to snap to the right, and you're going to see the ball come out to the left. The left tackle has come out. I'm giving you the play before we go ahead and do it. Is Yahweh here? Okay, that was a little delayed getting off the blocks, but all right. All right. To all of my fellow citizens and statesmen of the nation of Hebrew Israel, I say Shabbat Shalom to you. Shabbat Shalom. I also want to make sure that I don't forget one of our most important dignitaries, all of our enemies. Because you're probably here waiting to hear something to debunk. Oh, they're not true to the game. Look at what he just got up there and said. I encourage you, if you have an ulterior motive, to read your text. That's all we're doing. Let the Most High, Yahweh Yahweh HaSofet, be the judge between you and me. While we absent, one from an All right. I'm going to flow with this bad boy today. I'm feeling this bad boy today. So I say Shabbat Shalom to our foes. I've got a lot of information to cover. Today is going to be a very technical day. I can't move forward with the study of our dear, opulent, genius, strategic military general, one-man band, one-man gang, the Honorable Shimshom the judge. Shimshom the Nazir. Part 2 is today. All right. But in saying so, we have some things that we have to cover in detail. Because, again, if we don't grasp the mitzvot, we do not grasp Shimshon. We will be like every other congregation that meets on what time? 7, 9, 11 o'clock at Mount Slap a Fool Baptist Church across the street. We'll be like them. Because what they'll tell you is that your ancestor is a bumbling buffoon. He's a meatneck. He's one of these steroid clowns that all he does is, I am here to pump you up. One of them guys. Okay? That he's driven by his own lust for women. That he has anger management issues. That he squanders the very thing that the Most High has placed upon him. He's been given this charge and he can't accomplish it because of his own idiosyncrasies. He is an inadequate person to deliver the nation of Israel. That is what all of your people across the street will tell you. But the story is very different when you look at it. See, they're talking about Samson, the Christian Samson. We're talking about the Hebrew Shimshon. Okay? So let's get right into it. We got to get right into these mitzvot and understand the mitzvot. If you don't do anything else today, you are going to be a very good, you're going to have your PhD in what the Nazir is today. Because we can't progress forward unless we understand the Nazir. And I'm going to give you a scenario. Okay? I've got some very dignified folks in here. They'll be able to fact check me on this. If I'm going astray, they will correct me. All right? So, first things first. First, I apologize to you. I don't have your sheet. So we're going to just follow along with me today. I'm going to give some time. I'll probably do some exposition in between. Today, the first one I'm going to need is we're going to go back to Bamidbar chapter 6, verse 1. And that's, again, Bamidbar chapter 6, verse 1. Can anybody remember what's there? The Nazir. The Nazir. Good. So this is what we're going to learn today in 15. Shimshon's wife and the best man, they have some type of collusion going on. Shimshon takes his revenge, and then the Philistine attack, then get attacked. In 15, and I'm being super vague, 16, the people of Azah, if you read it in your King James Version or your NIV or your New American Standard or your Bishop Dog Magic Wand Bible, you might find this to say Gaza instead of Azah. So it says the people of Azah tried to ambush Shimshon. Azah is one of the 5 Philistine cities. I think there's Ashkelon, there's Gad, there's Azah, and then there's Ekron. Those are the 5 Philistine cities. And they kind of occupy the southwest corner in the land. Okay? So they've kind of occupied this area. Shimshon and the treacherous, oh boy, here she comes. Treacherous Delia. Or Delia. Shimshon is captured and we see his demise, his death. Okay? Now, let's go back to Bamidbar. We're going to do a little bit of a recap of 13 because 13 is very important in order to understand 15 and 16 moving forward. But before we even do 13 and review the mission, we're going to go over this issue of the Nazir one more time. And we're going to dissect it. And I mean dissect it. Because we have to deal with some issues. The one major issue we got to deal with is Shimshon is dropping bodies left and right. He's dropping Fifth War Bs on people. Bombs is being dropped on Baghdad on the Philistines when he gets a hold of them. So that means if he's killing people, then he's touching dead bodies. Okay? We have to resolve that. So let's pick this Nazir portion apart. All right? Let's start at the top. Let's look at it together. It says Yahweh. Everybody know who Yahweh is? We're not talking about Jesus, Krishna, anybody. It says Yahweh. Okay, very good. We're on the same page. Yahweh said to Moshe, tell the people of who? Yisrael. Come on, stay with me. When either a who? Man or a woman makes a special kind of vow. Let's stop there. You should already have a question already. What's wrong? Okay. Let's stop there. Because Shimshom is a Nazir from birth. Right? This is saying that if a man or a woman makes a vow, how can he make a vow as an infant? He can't. So who's making the vow for him? The Malak is making the vow for him. I want to establish up front that Shimshom is an ordained individual. He has one purpose and one purpose alone. The profession of what he's supposed to do is given by the Malak to his mother. There is where the vow is made, right there, on the behalf of Shimshom. Because we never see in text where Shimshom makes this vow to be a Nazir. The Malak makes it for him. This is a divinic charge. Are we all on the same page? We good? Okay, bobblehead. Okay. Well, if you don't want a bobblehead, wave your hands in the air like you just don't care. Do something. Wiggle. Do something. All right. Okay. It says, either a man or a woman makes a special kind of vow. This is a special kind of vow. All right? The vow of a Nazir, consecrating himself to Yahweh. He is to abstain from wine and other intoxicating liquor. He is not to drink vinegar from either source. He is not to drink grape juice, and he is not to eat grapes or raisins. So, we're defining right now what this Nazir vow is. So, let's put it into perspective. As Hebrew Israel, can we make vows in general? Yes. Under the category of vows, there is a special kind of vow called a Nazir vow. This is the criteria for that vow. Okay? That you cannot do what? Have any intoxicating liquor. I'm going to assign that to you. Every time that I look at you, my beautiful wife, one of them is what? Not to have any intoxicating liquor, because that covers wine. Okay? That will cover wine. All right. So we've got that. Or vinegar produced from it. All right? The other part of that is you are not to touch anything from the vine that's produced. The grape seed skins, the grape itself, wine, or anything that's produced thereof. Raisins, I'm assigning that to you because I'm looking dead at you. So yours is you can't have anything from the vine. Right? So when I look at you, you're going to say, you can't have anything, nothing from the vine. What's yours?
No intoxicating liquor.
What's yours? Nothing from the vine. What's yours? What's yours? Let's go forward. We got everything, we got squared away. All right. I'm a drummer, so you know we got to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And Pete, his brother Pete, and Repeat's cousin Pete. Second cousin removed from his uncle Pete and Repeat. Okay, so moving forward. Throughout the period of the vow of the Nazir. Now, before we go any further, I want to make sure we cover this as well. Is there any stipulation in there that you read that says if you happen to eat something from the vine or have intoxicating liquor, there is a consequence? Is there anything in there that says if you don't, then you need to do X? Nothing is there. Nothing is there. That's a point. Throughout the period of the vow of the Nazir, he is not to shave his head. I'm going to look at that dear brother back there. Because I'm in that same boat. So yours is?
No intoxicating liquor.
Yours is? Nothing from the vine? That dear brother back there, you cannot shave your head. I'm in the same boat. Y'all don't know about the Three Stooges. Am I talking to a bunch of young people in here? Y'all don't know about, okay. Yeah. Okay, so we got 3 right there. We're keeping it moving. Throughout the period upon which he has consecrated himself to Yahweh, he is not to approach a corpse. All right, there's 3 categories in this. He's not to approach a corpse. Now let's go back. Did you read anything there that said that if you happen to cut your hair while you're in the Nazir vow, that there is a consequence? No. There's nothing there that says that there's a consequence that's there. Very good. So let's talk about this. You can't touch a corpse. Now, scholars will debate over this one because when you look up the definition of a corpse, it specifically says it pertains to humans and not to animals. Okay? But let's err on the side of caution and say that it does pertain to animals. Your ancestors still didn't break the mitzvot. Okay? In this particular area when it comes to that lion, because he reached in and grabbed the honey. He didn't say that he touched the corpse. He says he grabbed and got some honey out of it. All right? Now, it says, throughout the period for which he has consecrated himself to Yahweh, he was not to approach a corpse. He is not to make himself unclean for his father, mother, brother, or sister when they die, since his consecration to El is on his head. Throughout the time of this being a Nazir, he is set apart for Yahweh. So, that's who I'm going to assign that to. I'm going to assign that to you. So, yours is you can't approach a corpse, and if your family members perish, you can't touch them either. What's yours?
No intoxicating liquor.
Yours? Yours? Can't shave his head. Yours?
Can't approach a corpse if your family member passed away.
You can't touch them either. So there's a 2-part for yours. Can't approach a corpse, and you can't touch a family member if they died. Is there anything in that paragraph that says if you do any of those things, there is a consequence? Or there's something special that you need to do? No. Let's keep moving forward. Our last criteria says if someone next to him dies very suddenly, boom, your neighbor sitting right next to you, right on the pew, boom, dies suddenly, so that he defiles his consecrated head, then he is to shave his head on the day of his purification. He is to shave his head on the 7th day. The day of his purification is the 7th day. On the 8th day, he is to bring 2 doves or 1 young pigeon to the Kohanim at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The Kohen is to prepare one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, and this make atonement for him, insomuch he has sinned because of the dead person. That same day, he is to reconsecrate his head. That's on the 8th day. He is to consecrate to Yahweh the full period of being a Nazir by bringing the male lamb in its first year as a guilt offering. The previous days will not be counted because of his consecration became defiled. Let's break that down. Let's unpack that right there. So the last criteria is this. It says if someone dies next to him suddenly, then we go right into if that happens, this is what you're supposed to do. On the 7th day, on the day of your purification, because someone died next to you suddenly, you got 7 days. On that 7th day, you're to come in, cut your hair, bring your offering. On the 8th day, you are to reconsecrate yourself. Bring the offering that's associated with that. The days prior to the day that you fell out on the consecration or the consecration got defiled are all for naught. Time starts over again. So with the Nazir vow, there is a time component that's with it as well. Okay. So we can clearly see here that if you do this one, then there is a consequence that you got to fulfill. But the other ones don't. So, Ambassador Jones, I'm going to assign that one to you. So if someone dies suddenly next to you, then there's consequences that got to be, and they got to be fulfilled, right? That's what we read. So let's go through it. What do you got?
No intoxicating liquor.
No intoxicated liquors. Everybody clear on that? Good. What is yours? Nothing from the vine. Everybody clear on that? Good. Can't shave your head. Is everybody clear on that? Yours?
You cannot approach a corpse if a family member dies. You cannot touch the people.
All right, look at these Hebrews. Y'all know these mitzvos, Jack. Woo, I can't mess with y'all. And yours is? You can't, if somebody dies right next to you, then you've defiled it, and then that means that you got to do a special set of criteria. So, this is under the umbrella of a vow. If, in fact, listen carefully, I inadvertently or somehow I eat grapes or I eat a raisin, then what is the penalty? Wrong. Wrong. What did you do? You broke the vow. So we must use the mitzvot for breaking a vow. You see how you don't get out of it? So, if you inadvertently, or let's say if you didn't do it inadvertently and you did it on purpose, you were still under the vow. You broke the vow. Let's go back to what we talked about with Yiftach. Anybody remember what happened with Yiftach? He said, Most High, if you give me the power or the ability to beat the army of Ammon, the first thing that comes out of my door when I get back to my house, I will sacrifice to you as a burnt offering. Who walked out of the house? His daughter. There's mitzvahs about sacrificing. We don't sacrifice humans. So one could say, oh, I'm breaking a mitzvah. That's in the box of the vow. You're focusing on the fact that he's breaking that one particular mitzvah that's under the umbrella of the vow. So what takes precedent is the vow itself. You cannot break the vow. You have to go through with what you said, even though there might be something inside the vow that's contradictory, that we would never do, which is sacrifice a person. You get it? All right. I'm telling you, we did in some deep water today. So let's go read the mitzvah about a vow, breaking a vow. It's in Bad Midbar. Is it in Bad Midbar? It's in Bad Midbar, chapter, come on now, chapter, it's in Bad Midbar. 30, thank you, 30. I got my help somewhere, 30, verses 1 and 2. Let's get that. So I don't do this much. Any questions? Any questions? Are we all clear how this mitzvah is working? Because we got to use it to say, because people are going to tell you, your ancestor broke the mitzvah. And I would live to tell you that he didn't. Okay, let's go. What does it say? Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel, and he said, here is what Yahweh has ordered. When a man makes a vow to Yahweh or formally obligates himself by swearing, he is not to break his word, but to do everything he said he would do. That's the mitzvot on the vow. You're looking for something to say, oh, you got to bring something, or you got to do X or do B. Well, how is that written? That is written to say, okay, I'm in the middle of my Nazirite vow, and I said I'm going to be a Nazirite for 7 years, but I'm not liking this issue of the fact that I can't drink wine, or I can't do this other issue, or I got to cut my hair, so I'm going to go ahead and break it. That says you are not allowed to get out of the vow. You just can't quit in the middle of it. It's getting after the people that take a vow that want to simp out and get wishy-washy in the middle of it. The Most High is going to hold you to it. Okay? That's why Yiftach has to go ahead and sacrifice his daughter. He has to fulfill it. That's the mitzvah on it. Not to necessarily say that you have to bring anything if you cannot break your vow. Okay, I'm driving that home. All right? That's how we reconcile these issues when 15 and 16, when this dude is touching corpses left and right. Because then you can say, okay, you're gonna understand why he reacts to some of the things he reacts. But is that clear? Wow, maybe I'm just went woo, woo, woo. Okay, so let's see. Let's go through this and start at 15. Actually, I want to go back to 13. Let's go to chapter 13. And let's read from chapter 13, verse 1. Let's go do the recap because I want to make sure that everybody understands what our mission is. And I've browbeated into you so long that you should know that this is a mission to go ahead and start the declination of the power of the Philistines over the nation of Israel. It is not to deliver Hebrew Israel from the power of the Philistines. It's to start the process of their declination. All right, it says, verse 1. Again, the people of Israel did what was evil from Yahweh's perspective, and Yahweh handed them over to the Philistine for 40 years. After doing further research and study, I made a statement that says, I believe that this is what happened within those 40 years and so on and so forth. I'm changing my tune on that one. Because the dispensation of time that happens during the time that Shimshom is alive kind of exceeds this a little bit. Okay? So let me make that distinction there. 2, there was a man from Zorah, the family of Dan, whose name was Manoach, and his wife was barren. Said the angel of Yahweh appeared to the woman and said to her, listen, you are bearing. You haven't had a child, but you will conceive and bear a son. Now, therefore, be careful not to drink any wine, any intoxicating liquor. Okay, who is that? That's you, right? That's also you too. No intoxicating liquor. Do not eat anything unclean. Now, you Hebrew scholars, is there anything in the Nazir that says eating things unclean? Or is that being added? We just went through all of the ones that's stipulated for the Nazir. Is eating anything unclean in that one? No, he's adding that on. And you can do that because when you get to the end of what a Nazir is, it gives you the latitude to tack on other things to it. So he's still within the confines of the mitzvot. Okay? Now, I'm saying that to say, let's move on. He can't drink any intoxicating liquor or don't eat anything unclean. He's not going to do that anyway because he's a judge and he has the dietary laws that he has to abide by. So this is kind of double covered. For indeed you will conceive and bear a son. No razor is to touch his head. That's yours. Said because the child will be a Nazir for Elohim from the womb. The declaration is being made by whom? The angel. That's who's making the vow. So we know Shimshon can't do anything except operate in that office. So you can't make him out to be a big, dumb baby huge. I like girl. She over there. Stop it with that. Moreover, he will begin to rescue Israel from the power of the Philistine. That's his mission. He will begin to rescue. He will begin the rescue. Not he's going to begin the rescue of Israel from the power of the Philistine. I'm going to skip down to verse 7 because she talks about how fearful the face of the angel is. She said, but in 7, he says, but he said to me, listen, you will conceive and bear a son, so now don't drink any wine or intoxicating liquor. Don't eat anything unclean because your child will be a Nazir for Elohim from the womb until the day he dies. I'm saying that for a purpose and I'm emphasizing it because if you look at the technical part about this, you could say, was he a Nazir when he died? That might come up later on when you analyze what's going on from a Hebrew perspective. Okay? But he doesn't. There's something written in text that says to the day that he died, he was a Nazir. And we skim over it because we don't go through what we just went through, which is let's break down and unpack what a Nazir is. You can't do 15 and 16 and apply these principles to Shimshom without knowing the Nazir. It won't make any sense. So the next time you hear somebody do a sermon and they just simply, well, he was a Nazir. Moving on. Oh, okay, well, then you should just pretty much turn it off at that particular point, because it's all going to be about superficial things and not the deeper things that's written in text. Let's go 15. Let's read it right from the top. 15 and 16 today. It says in 15, and I'll get a little sip of water while y'all get caught up. We okay? Oh, yeah. I'm going to tell you something. With the information that y'all getting here today, I'm thinking to myself, if you were to go out and download this into one of your brethren out there that is still across the street, they'd be like, you must have went to the Moody Bible Institute and got your PhD and whatever you talking about. That's a level that drool coming down the side. But Moody don't know this. Woo. It says, but after a while, we have to read this verbatim, Hebrews. I'm so glad y'all with me here today. My kinsmen, my brethren, my sisters are here to read Yahweh's text with me today. And we're going to unpack it, and you're going to see all these mitzvos just, oh my gosh, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. This man is just on it. But after a while, oh, no. Excuse me. Let's go back up and get 14. Because we got to deal with this issue of whether or not he married this woman or not. Because I'm of the opinion that he never did. So he's not in violation of the mitzvah. Okay? Let's recap what happened. He goes down there. He gets his wife. Now, I told you, he said he likes this woman from Timah. That don't mean he lusted after her. She was perfect for the mission. She's naive enough to do whatever I tell her to do. I scoped her out, and I like this one. She's the one I want. So his issue is that he has to marry her. Okay? All right? So the plan is running through this particular woman. Are we all clear? She's important because now the plan goes through her. What happens? He goes down there and he goes to the banquet and they give him 30 companions and he gives them the riddle, which is basically the prophecy of what I'm going to end up doing to y'all. And on the seventh day, they actually go to her and they say, hey, listen, if you don't tell us or get him or coerce him to tell you what the answer to the riddle is, then we're going to kill you and your father. So she's got that hanging over her head. So she's wearing on his heartstrings. And then at the end of the banquet on the seventh day, he's so tired of this, which I think is a front at best. He tells her to prove a couple of different things, that whether or not really I can trust this child to do whatever. He just flat out just disrespects her and says, listen, after they go ahead and answer it, he said, had you not been consorting with my heifer, because that's what a young cow is, calls it my heifer, you would never know what the answer is. So he already proved right now, he says, listen, anything I tell her, she's going to go back and tell them. I'm gaining what? What do we call that in warfare? We call that getting intel. You see how this is a military operation. This is not bumbling stupidity. All right? At the end, he goes down and says, okay, since y'all figured it out, I got to get you these garments. So he goes down to Ashkelon. And he goes and he kills 30 guys. Do what you think? Cold-blooded folk? Gaiters on. Suited and booted, gaitered and tight. It's all standing in a circle, 30 of them, just waiting for this dude to come down there. And then all of a sudden they get kung fu skills and they start attacking this dude at the same time. That's not what happens. He's going around like a serial killer, taking folk out one at a time. Okay? That takes a while. You got to be methodical about what you're doing. and he's grabbing these folk. So the first one should come right up off the bat. He goes down there and kills 30 guys. So when I kill you, I'm touching a dead corpse, right? That falls under yours. Now, I'm touching the corpse because now I've violated the mitzvah. So let's read what he says at the end of 14. It's going to make so much sense. Let's go to the end of 14. Let's start at 19. It says, then the Spirit of Yahweh came over him powerfully. Now granted, he has not had intercourse with his wife. He's not married to her. I got to fulfill this vow first that I made to go get these garments. I don't have them, so I'm going to get them off of y'all. It's another city that he goes to in the Philistine community and kills 30 guys there. He comes back. Now, he says the Spirit, well, this is a part of it. It says, then the Spirit of Yahweh came over him powerfully. He went down to Ashkelon, killed 30 of their men, took their good clothes, and gave them to the men who had solved the riddle. Again, you touched the corpse, you broke the mitzvah. Therefore, what is the penalty for breaking the mitzvah? You have to continue to fulfill the vow, which is to continue to be a Nazir. So it's almost like kind of like a slap on the wrist a little bit. Okay? Don't do it. The mitzvot is written so if you decide to get weak in your flesh and not go through with your vow, that is what it's protecting. But I would assume he would probably have made an Ola offering of something to, go ahead and say, Yahweh, please forgive me for what I did. You can do those with burnt offerings, okay? But if we take a look at specifically the mitzvot that are connected, I'm losing y'all, to the Nazir, it's the vow, okay? If you break the vow, that's what it says. Let's keep moving. What does it say next? It says he was boiling with rage. Why? You just got done killing 30 guys. You just took all your anger out on these guys. And you got the garments and you fulfilled the vow. Why is he angry? Why is he angry? Come on, Sister Cheryl. He's angry because I've been living my life this whole entire time, and now I got to go kill 30 guys, and you made me break my vow. Was you happy about that? I've just lived my whole entire life as a Nazir. This is the first time I've actually had to touch a corpse. I'm not happy about that. One of the stipulations of being Nazir is you can't touch a corpse. And you just made me do it. I'm upset. Then he goes on and he says, so he went straight to his father's house, and his wife has been given to his companion who had been his best man at his wedding. So if you read that on the surface, you're going to think, okay, he's upset because his wife is given to this best man, and that's why he's enraged. If you got to read what came before and then read it came what after. He's mad about two different things. The fact that, number one, you made me break my vow, which I didn't want to do. Number two, you gave my wife, who was what? The person that I was supposed to marry that I had the plan through, to somebody else. You just foiled my plans. You see? There's two different things that he's upset about. Make sense? Okay. He's mad at his father-in-law because his father-in-law gave his wife to his best man. Because what happened? She's distraught at the wedding. She's not in good spirits. Why? Because technically behind the scenes, she knows that if she don't come up with this answer, she's going to either get killed by her own people. All right? So she's crying. She's playing this act like she needs to get this information off of him. So who's watching this whole entire time? Her father. And then Shimshom just runs off and for a while and starts killing folks. So you'll find out his answer here. I figured you didn't want the chick. You left. Okay? That's when we get here to 15. When it says, but after a while, not right after, Just because you can read from one chapter to another doesn't mean that it happened instantaneously. Some time took place. Said during the wheat harvest, Shimshom went to see his wife. So he went to go see her. He wasn't with her. He brought a young goat for her and said to her father. So he's making a kind of like a peace offering here. Here's this, I brought you some honey here last time. Here's this goat. And by the way, let me take a sidebar real quick. Last time I talked about the fact that Shimshon ripped that lion apart like it was a goat, right? Upon further research, that's not too far-fetched about ripping a goat apart. It's the text says a young goat. It didn't say a fully grown goat. It said a young goat. So I have to believe this goat, if it was an infant, you could literally, if you were strong enough, you could take its hind legs and pull it apart. That's where they're the weakest at. So I'm saying it's not far-fetched to think that a young infant goat could be ripped apart. How you would rip it apart is how you would rip it apart at its legs. And I did some research on that and found out that's where they're the weakest. You take a goat by the legs, rip them right apart. So that's how he killed this lion. He was extremely strong, but that's how he did it. Now, I also want to bring something up as well. Every time that Shimshon goes ahead and he has this supernatural experience, it's because the pretext says the Most High had his spirit on him. Think. Think. Shimshon doesn't have strength because he's a Nazir. Shimshon has strength because the Most High gives it to him when he needs it. See how that changes your way of thinking? Y'all thinking that he's a Nazir and that's because he gets his strength from that. The Most High gives him his strength. Remember that point. It's going to come up again. We got to get moving. Shimshon said to them, this time I am through with this Philistine. I'm going to do something terrible to him now. Why? You foiled my plan. And the whole entire deal is that I'm getting ready to start a quarrel with the Philistines so we can start the declination of them. What is he doing? He has to pick a fight with them. He has to pick a fight. So, since you foiled this over here, I'm going to do something real bad to you. So the text goes on, let's read it. It says, so Shimshon went and caught 300 foxes. Do you think that was on the shelf at Walmart? So he went and caught 300 foxes. We say it so nonchalant, like it was such an easy task. Let's say that you caught one. Now, I've heard some people say that actually is a jackal, but that's not what the text says. The text says it was a fox. So let's put this into perspective. How many foxes do you think somebody can catch a day? One. Okay. So let's take a look at this. If he caught 300 foxes, that's 300 days. Okay, he's a Hebrew, so let's throw the Shabbats out. Okay, he's a Hebrew. Let's throw out the Rosh Chodeshes. Okay, he's a Hebrew. Let's throw out all the Moedims. You can't do work on those days. Okay? All right? And then also, let's throw in actually seasons. Okay? He's not going out in the middle of the rain and trying to catch foxes. So this probably took a while to do. I enter in Shimshon the zookeeper. Now, I want to ask you a question. You live in Elk Grove. You live in Elk Grove, right? You don't live where you live? Rockland. You live in Rockland. Watch this. Let's use Rockland. Your opulent husband goes and he starts collecting a bunch of foxes. And you've accumulated, I'd say about 250 of them. Do you think out in Roseville nobody's going to notice that? Matter of fact, even at 2 foxes, somebody's going to notice that. This man has 300 foxes. He has to feed them. He has to take care of them so they don't die because they're using for a purpose. This takes a while to do. All I'm trying to tell you guys and set the stage for is everybody knows what he's doing. This is not a secret. So now you're going to understand why they do what they do. Let's read on. It says, he took the torches. He caught 300 foxes. Then he took torches, tied pairs of the foxes to each other by their tails, and put a torch in the knot of every pair of tails. Is everybody clear what he did? Tied their tails together. That's a real nasty little thing, but tied their tails together and put a torch in between them and set them ablaze. Oh, then he set the torches on fire and let the foxes loose in the wheat fields of the Philistine. In this way he burned up the harvested wheat along with the grain, waiting to be harvested. So he burnt up everything. Everything. Touch another and say, everything. Everything. Got burnt up. In this way he burned up the harvest wheat along with the grain waiting to be harvested, and the olive orchards as well. The Philistine asked, who did this? Then they answered, Shimshom, the son-in-law of the man from Timnah, because he took Shimshon's wife and gave her to his best man. You know the real reason behind that. That's what they think. But do you see how they answer? We immediately know who that was. Because that don't go unchecked. Okay? I'm trying to establish precedent that every response in this text has a reason. It's just not arbitrary. Oh, he just said that, and that doesn't seem like that doesn't go in there. That's right. You may on the surface, but let's take a deeper look. Now, what did Shimshon do? He sent all of these foxes into the fields, and he burnt them all up. So what did he really do to the Philistine? Okay. What did he do? Okay, this would be like me. Who I'm going to pick? Who I'm going to pick? I'm going to pick, I'm going to pick you. Yeah, you. That would be like me going to, you just went and you put $30,000 in the safe deposit box in the Bank of America, downtown Sacramento, located at 1829 T Street, and your PO and your safe deposit box is number 439. Y'all fools if y'all believe that's what that is. I'm kidding with y'all. Stay with me. Okay. You put some money in your safe deposit box, and that's like me going down to the bank and I burn the bank to the ground. That's all the money that you had. Okay? That's what he did to them. He took their way of eating and their livelihood. The merchant demolished it all. They're upset. Okay? What is he trying to do? What's the mission? We can't lose sight of the mission. I'm trying to pick a fight. Just like the two little kids on the playground, and the other one, the bully, is pushing the other little one, and he keeps stepping back, and the bully keeps pushing. Come on, let's go. That's what he's trying to do. He wants a reaction out of them. Okay? He's trying to pick a fight. And if you don't understand that, if you don't get chapter 13 of Shof'tim and understand that, you won't understand the rest of it. Because it's from the Malak. He tells you the whole entire purpose right up front. Okay? Now, let's keep going. It says, the Philistine asked, who did this? They answered, Shimshon, the son-in-law of the man from Timnah, because he took Shimshom's wife and gave her to his best man. That's what they think. Okay? Then the Philistine, now we know why. Let's go back. We know why. Okay? Because she was supposed to be the reason he was supposed to get next to the Philistine. That was part of his plan. They foiled it. Okay? So yes and no. He said, so the Philistine came up and they burned both burned her and her father to death. So they killed her anyhow. Shimshon said to them, I will certainly have my revenge on you for doing such a thing, but after I do, I will stop. Infuriated, he began killing them. Why is he upset? I'm touching corpses again. I can't touch a corpse. But you think listen, I'm supposed to deliver y'all. I'm happy about putting my foot right up in your behind. But see, now you're making me go against what I got going on as this vow. And you keep making me break it. And I don't like that. So infuriated, he began killing them left and right. Who's giving him the power to do this? The Most High. It was a massacre. Then he went down and stayed in the cave at the Etanim rock. What is he doing now? He's on the run. He's on the lam. He's on the FBI's most wanted list. He right up there next to Whitey Bulger and Al Capone and Jimmy Hoffa. Ooh, some of y'all don't know who that is. You might want to go look that up. All right, so he's in this cave. The Philistine attacked, and then they get attacked. Title of our next section. The Philistine, in verse 9, went up, pitched camp in Yehuda, and attacked Lehi, which means heights. Now, they are upset. You burnt up all of our fields, our olive orchards. We can't make any money. Folks are probably starving to death over here. We want this guy's head on a stick. Okay, so he's on the run. He's hiding. They finally, through all their investigation, because you know what happens when somebody commits a crime here and they go on the lam, there's an investigation that has to happen. They send out investigators. They find out who saw who last, where was he at. Once they went through that, they finally came to the point where we said, I think we know where he is. Because if they knew exactly, they just would have went there. So, to draw him out, good tactic in war. To draw him out, what do you do in a hostage situation? Give us X or I'll take out B. Okay? That's what we're getting ready to do. The men of Yehuda said, why are you attacking us? They replied, to arrest Shimshom, not to kill him, to arrest him. That's why, to treat him the way he treated us. Then 3,000 men from Yehuda went down to the cave. They had to come strapped. They knew what this guy was capable of. He just killed 30 folks. He got that on his rap sheet. And his rap sheet is what? He just burnt down all these Philistine fields. His rap sheet is going to get thick by the time we done today. Okay? He's known. Then 3,000 men from Yehuda went down to the cave at Etam rock and said to Shimshom, don't you know that the Philistines are our rulers? Okay. Notice the state that Hebrew Israel is in right now, which is the issue that we are in right now. You are comfortable around your people that are oppressing you. They are comfortable with the Philistines. You don't hear anywhere in this text where you're hearing them say, okay, Yahweh rescue us. Every time you read text, it says that Yahweh put these folks on them, and then Israel turned and cried out. When you talk about being under Philistine rule here, we've heard nothing about them crying out. So they've become very complacent living around them. Okay? All right. Let's move forward. It said 3,000 of them went down to Yehuda, to the cave. Don't you know that the Philistines are our rulers? What are you doing to us? He answered, I've only treated them the way that they treated me. They said to him, we've come down to arrest you and hand you over to the Philistine. Shimshom replied, swear to me that you will not fall on me yourselves. They said to him, no, but we will tie you up and hand you over to them. However, we promise not to kill you. Somebody unpack that for me. Why is he so concerned about his own brethren not killing him? It's easy. Yes, ma'am. Because what? Because he can't touch a corpse? Not really. If I can't, it's simple. Because if you guys kill me before I'm able to get down to the Philistines and complete my mission, then the mission won't be completed. So I want you guys to make sure that you don't kill me, okay? Just make sure that you deliver me. I'm fine. I'll go willingly. There's no problem. I could throw all of y'all around the room like a rag doll and jump off the top rope and do 4 monkey double back flips, a hip toss, and put you in the finger fail leg lock and rip your limbs off. I could do that easily, but I'm not going to do that because I want you to take me there. But on the way there, just don't kill me. Okay? Simple. We have to complete the mission. Says, then he said to him, no, but we will tie you up and hand you over to them. However, we promise not to kill you. So they tied him up with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock. When he got to Lehi, the Philistine came running out and shouting at him. And Yahweh came on him powerfully. Oh, shoot. We didn't got you. Oh, if you read that already, you're getting ready to know what's getting ready to happen. He didn't took a power pellet. He didn't pushed his button. His junior G-man badge is starting to go up. Man, I'm telling you, yeah, exactly. Just muscles out of nowhere, just strong. Okay. So it says they tied him up with 2 new ropes. When he got to Lehi, the Philistine came out running and shouting at him, and Yahweh came on him powerfully. The ropes on his arms became as weak as burnt flax. They fell from his arms. He found a fresh donkey bone. Okay? A jawbone, took it in his hand and struck down 1,000 men. This is where I would say if somebody had asked me, how strong do you think Shimshom was? He was as strong as 1,000 men. He had strength in him for 1 person apiece that came at him, at least. Struck them all down. Okay? I'm looking at this right now. I'm in my mind's eye. I'm in Hollywood right now. They got all these movies. You can have you a cold movie with this dude. All the Matrix type stuff, boom, stat, pat, boom, crack, shoot, pop, all that kind of stuff. 1 person, jawbone of a donkey. Okay? They talk about who's seen that Warrior Queen? What is that called? The movie Warrior Queen? Y'all know what it is. The movie with Viola Davis. Come on, what's the name of it? Warrior Queen. Woman Queen, all right, y'all get me right now. You know, I live under a rock. I'm trying to study the stuff for y'all. I don't know what the thing is. Warrior Queen. Nails. Oh, I'm still getting it wrong. Woman Queen. I don't know. See, I'm butchering it on purpose now. It's beyond trying to get it right. Just say something. Feliz Navidad Queen. She said, why don't you stick to the text? Stay over there. Sharpening their nails to a point. Sap! Right in their eyes, right in their throat. Getting busy. All right. So he goes down there and kills all these guys, which makes him what again? Unclean. All right? Shimshom said, this is what he said. It was like one of those things where, you know, you see Serena Williams hit a grand slam on the child, and she, whatever she does, and she says a little something at the end. This is what this dude's doing. He done went through all these folks, and he's up on his, I would say, his pimp lean right now. Check me out. With a jawbone of a donkey, I left heaps piled on heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I done killed these thousands of men. After he was finished speaking, he threw the jawbone away. And the place came to be known as Ramat Lehi, which is Jawbone Heights. 18. So if you want to go to Jawbone Heights and get you some real estate, I know the land is cheap up there. That's going to be a staple from here on out. At the 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I'm going to add that on there. 10 o'clock service over at Mount Slapper Food Baptist Church on 465 in Jawbone Heights. 18. Then he felt very thirsty. So he called on Yahweh saying, you accomplished. Who accomplished it? Yahweh accomplished this great rescue through your servant. Has nothing to do with his hair. Has nothing to do with the Nazir. It's the fact that Yahweh gave it to him, okay? To rescue your servant. But am I now to die from thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? By no means. We still have work to do, brother. Said, then El made a gash in the crater of Lehi, and water came out. When he had drunk it, whose spirit came back? His spirit came back. All right. And he was revived. Said, this is why the place is called In Hakori, the spring of him who called. And it is there in Lehi until now. This is where we find out that he is an official judge. It says he judged Israel in the period of the Philistines for 20 years. So this man is very, very, very intimate with the mitzvot. He has to be, because he's a judge. That's why he's in the book of Judges. 16, and the conclusion of Shimshon. Touch your neighbor and say he trusted. Touch the neighbor on the other side and say he trusted. Touch the neighbor behind you and say he trusted. He trusted in the Most High his whole entire life. Shimshon went to Azah, which may be in your text. If you're reading from another version, it may say Gaza. But Azah, where he saw a prostitute and went in to spend the night with her. What do you automatically think he's doing? He's not in there clapping cakes, okay? He's not doing that. You automatically think that because of her profession. He's not doing that. He's not going in there to have coitus with her, okay? Read the text. He said he saw a prostitute and went in to spend the night with her. Say he had sex with her. Because what are we on? We're on a mission. His mission's not over. He's got to antagonize these people. Okay? It says the people of Azah were told that Shimshon had come, so they surrounded the place where he was and also set an ambush for him all night at the city gate. That would be listen, this man what? Let's look at his rap sheet. 30 guys in Ashkelon. Okay? Burnt up a whole entire field and commerce. Killed 1,000 men. I'm going to tell you something. To the Philistine, this is a mass murderer. Okay? Think about that. Okay? That would be like, so, Shimshon showing up in your town and he's walking up in a prostitute's brothel. Let's put that in today's terms. Newsflash. Joe Biden is seen walking into Onyx in Atlanta in the strip club. Carmilla Harris is right behind him. That would be on every news channel everywhere. How infamous they are. So what am I trying to tell you? Everybody knows. So what do? They gather up their folk. They're like, okay, let's get him. Let's jump him. Let's jump him. So at night, they said, this is our plan. We're going to go ambush him. They circle the house. They got little jokers around, scurrying around, little crackheads around the house, setting up camps, waiting to ambush him. And then they set something up at the gate, the city gates, okay? So, don't you know people talk? How did he find out that this was going on? He's in the house. This is a prostitute's brothel. Men are coming in and out of there all the time. You think they ain't talking? Sister, you need to keep him here. You need to keep him here. Make sure he don't go, because we got a little something for him in the morning at the city gate. We're going to ambush him, so make sure he stay here. Think. None of this stuff is put in here just by happenstance. Okay? Not to say that y'all wasn't thinking. I said that way too hard. Y'all Hebrews are so, y'all got your PhDs in this. I'm preaching to the choir. So if I'm talking to myself because I'm excited about what's happening to your ancestor. Okay? So don't take my vehement fervor the wrong way. Keep him here. So what does he do? They tell him their plan. And so what does he do in the middle of the night? He gets up. In the middle of the night. And let's read the text like we across the street. Let's read the text and put on your religion hat across the street. Let's read it together. It says their plan was to do nothing at night. We're not going to do anything at night. But to wait until morning and then kill him. However, Shimshon stayed in bed until midnight. Then he got up, took hold of the doors of the city gate and the two posts as well, pulled them up, bar and all, hoisted them on his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of the hill overlooking Hebron. Ask me some questions. Y'all got some questions. There's some gaps, big gaps in there. We know it's an ambush. We know that they set up camp around night. So I got to believe, let's fill in some holes, that these folks set up camp and went to sleep. They went to sleep. So Shimshom wakes up and he knows, because this is a prostitute's house, people are talking. He knows that there's an ambush. Think of it's no different than when the two spies went in from Jericho. They went into Rahab's house for refuge. They wasn't doing nothing with her. They were in there wanting to be seen. So what? You folk know that my countrymen are coming for you. And what better tactic to fight than fear? If I'm in a race, out the starting blocks, Usain Bolt, I got Kevin Holman here and Robert B. Holman Jr. over here, track stars, and you see Usain Bolt walk up and get in the other blocks next to you, don't tell me you ain't gonna have no fear in your heart when that gun sound. Because he's already in your mind before the thing even fire off. All right? Think about the tactics your ancestor is using. He's not an idiot. Okay? So, what is he doing? He goes down there and they fall asleep, goes out in the middle of the night, starts cracking skulls. Another movie point. You see him in the dark, getting pulled off into the darkness. You know Hollywood can do something cold-blooded with that. Now, you want me to believe if I read the text? Because it goes right into, what does it say? He got up at midnight, took a hold of the doors of the city gate. You want me to believe that a man will lift up a city gate, both posts and the hoist in between, and nobody hears it? Nobody heard that. That means that he would have taken them out before he did it. He hauled that thing up the hill, so when they woke up in the morning, look, why in the world is the city gates up on that hill? I thought we were supposed to ambush him last night. To give them to say, listen, come on and fight me. I'm constantly kicking y'all's butts, and y'all are doing nothing. What is up with this simpish, complacent attitude that y'all got? I need to start a fight with you, and you're not doing it, no matter what I've done. That piece of text, every time I listen to somebody on YouTube, and they're from across the street, this is what they do. Well, I have no idea why that was inserted into the text, why he did what he did with the city gates, but all I can tell you is that, and I'm quoting verbatim, is the pastor said, it's a cool story, so it should be in there. He said, it's an awesome story, and when you do something awesome, you should at least try to acknowledge it. So that's what the writer is doing here. All my Christian friends, it's a cool story, so why not include it? He's sending a message. He's trying to pick a fight. Okay? Let's keep going. 4 says, after this, he fell in love with a woman who lived in Sorek. I'm challenging that whole entire issue if he fell in love with her. Because if he's in love with this child is just a means to an end. I would like to explain it this way. I love you for this position. I love the way she carries herself. She would be a perfect fit for me. I'm going to tie the wife in right now. He doesn't marry Delilah. Okay? He is going to fulfill what he was planning to do the first time with his wife, with Delilah. Okay? He didn't like that chick. She was good for the mission. He loves Delilah because something in Delilah says that she's kind of maybe very impressionable, she's gullible, and I can get her to do what I want her to do. I'm going to be in control from day one with this one. I love her for the position. Because everything after this has to make sense. Because every Christian pastor got to this portion of the text and said, why in the world is she badgering him and you keep telling her these things and then you ultimately go ahead and you tell her everything at the end when you know this chick is not out for your good? Why are you with somebody that you know that is trying to get you killed? And nobody's been able to explain it because they're looking at it like He's a big dumb baby Huey. I like a girl. She over there. Woo. Pretty. My kid's over there. That's cringy. Stop, Dad. Okay? So, in comes Delilah. Now, here we go. It says, let's read the whole entire thing. It says the chiefs, we're going to go for a while. The chiefs of the Philistine went to her and said, sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Sounds like the other wife. This has come up before. But see, this is why he doesn't marry her. Okay? Because what happened before? She got given to somebody else. So I can't marry Delilah because there's the possibility that she could get given to somebody else if I go the same route that I did before. He's correcting his mistake the second time he's going in here to do this. The chiefs of the Philistine went up to her and said, coax him in telling you where his great strength comes from and how we can overcome him so we can tie him up and subdue him. If you do, each of us will give, wait a minute. Her choosing fee was 1,100 silver pieces per. Not she got 1,100 total. It says per. If you do, each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. Man, that's some money. He had a price tag on his head, Jack. All right? Now, let's say, for instance, you didn't read, you don't know what's getting ready to happen. Answer the question. Hebrews, they're asking a question. Coax him into telling you where his great strength comes from and how we can overcome him so we can tie him up and subdue him. Answer the question. How do you do that? How do you do it? Answer the question one more time. I'm going to go slowly. Coax him into telling you where his great strength comes from and how we can overcome him so we can tie him up and subdue him. Yeah. There's one word I'm looking for. Let me answer it for. What did you say? What? Not pillow talk. Let me answer the question for you. Coax him into telling you where his great strength comes from Yahweh. Does he ever tell her where his strength comes from? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He never tells her that. So that gives you a twist on this last one. When you think he's telling her the whole story, yes, I'm telling you the story of my life. I never tell you where my strength comes from. Because if I tell you where my strength comes from, then you take all of my advantage away. Okay? Makes sense. And how we can overcome him. So, we can tie him up and subdue him. If you do, each of us will give you 111 pieces of silver. 6. Says, Delilah said to Shimshom, please tell me what makes you so strong and how someone could tie you up and subdue you. I don't know how blatant and bold-faced that can be. That's why when you look at this from not a Hebrew perspective, the first thing you think about, fool, this don't make no sense. This makes no sense. But when you look at it from a Hebraic perspective, he's playing her the whole time. Shimshom replied, he says, if they tie me up with 7 fresh bowstrings that have never been dried, I will become weak as any other man. Remember that line, if you do this, I'll become weak like every other man. If you do this, I'll become weak like every other man. I'm setting you up. I'm setting a pattern here. Listen for the pattern. If you do this, I'll be weak as every other man. The chiefs of the Philistine brought up to her 7 fresh bowstrings, which had not been dried. She tied him up with them. Now she had the people lying in wait inside the room. This child is cold. She had him in the, what's that R. Kelly song, in the closet? That's what they was. They was waiting inside the room somewhere, soon as they was tied up. So she said, Shimshom, the Philistines have come for you. But he snapped the bowstrings as easily as a piece of straw breaks when it touches fire. And the source of his strength remained unknown. I wonder why, because he never revealed that it comes from Yahweh. Oh, wow. Let's go. Number 2, Delia. Why do I keep saying Delia? Delilah said to Shimshon, what did she say to him? You are making fun of me. You are making, I can see her poking her lip out. You making fun of me, telling me lies. Now, come on, tell me what it takes to tie you up. What's he say? All it takes, he answers, is to tie me up with new ropes that haven't been used. Then I will become as weak and be like anyone else. Do you see why he loves her? You are perfect. Oh my gosh. You gullible. You don't know your you don't know your way to San Jose. Just blatant and bald face. He says, so, like anyone else, 12. So Delilah took the new ropes, tied him up, and said to him, Shimshom, the Philistines have come for you. The people are lying in wait here inside the room. But he broke the ropes from off of his arms like a thread. Delilah said to Shimshon, till now you've been making fun of me. You don't say. And telling me lies. Tell me what it takes to tie you up. I don't know how you could actually say that and be like, and not know. That's what I'm trying to say. Even if she was buttering you up, and it was pillow talk, and she was whispering sweet, ooh, oh, in the back of my ear. Yeah, sweetie, just use some new rope. Okay? Delilah said to Shimshon, till now you've been making fun of me, telling me lies. Tell me what it takes to tie you up. He said, if you weave my 7 locks of hair across thread of loom. This is my poster child for why I'm saying that the Hebrew people are melanated, because you wear locks, don't you? Your ancestor wore locks. He had how many of them? 7. Okay? This is where I point to it. She tied his hair in that. She weaved his hair in this. People, are you telling me, I'm going to use my wife. Oh my gosh, I got to use you, the poster child for this, the paragon of resplendence. My wife, she's going to get me for this. And it's no secret when she has very thick, beautiful hair. Hair, beautiful and thick and rich. But there comes with a caveat. She's very tender-headed. Okay? So if you in there with Madam C.J. Walker's, whatever, she wouldn't put that in her hair, but if you in there and you're combing her hair, you have to be very ginger. And that takes a very long time for my wife to get her hair done. So you want me to believe that this man is laying here asleep and he don't feel her putting his hair into this? I'm just reiterating the fact he's controlling her the whole entire time. I'm not going to sit there and believe that he's just that knocked out. Ain't no cannabis in the world that strong that's going to get you to the point where you that knocked out. We don't know where somebody's tugging on your head. Right? Says every day she kept nagging him and pressing him. Or matter of fact, did I skip 15? I did skip 15. I got to go all the way back up to 13. Let's go to 14. So what did she say? She says, so she fastened her cloth work in the loom with a pin, that pin in the middle, and wove his hair. Then she said to him, Shimshon, with your old trifling tramp self, Shimshon, the Philistines have come for you. He woke from his sleep and pulled away the loom, pin, and the interwoven hair. Just yanked it right on out like she ain't did nothing at all. And knowing her IQ, that probably looks like Michelangelo did that compared to what she probably did with the brain cells she got. So she said to him, how can you say that you love me? Because I don't. I want to put some stank on the back of it because I don't. Anyway, so she came and said, how can you say that you love me when your heart isn't with me? 3 times you have made fun of me, and you haven't told me the source of your great strength. That's true, has he? No, he hasn't. You and I know where his source of his strength is. It says every day she kept nagging him and pressing him till it bothered him to death. Okay, so at this particular point, I think we're ready to institute this plan because I'm getting tired of her asking me this over and over and over again. I think the timing is right. I'm perturbed. Let's get it on. Let's implement the plan. Let's do it. So, it says every day she kept nagging him and pressing him till it bothered him to death. So he finally told her everything. He said to her, no razor has ever touched my head, has it? No. Because I have been a Nazir a Nazir of El since I was born. If someone shaves me, then my strength will leave me. It says, and I will be like any other man. He's telling her his story. He never really gets to the point where he actually tells her that it comes from Yahweh. And she's just going along and believing it. But here's the kicker, right here. When Delilah saw that he had really confided in her, she sent and summoned the chiefs of the Philistines with a message. Come up this last time because he has finally told me the truth. He told her his whole life story. It says Shimshom said the chiefs of the Philistines went to her and brought the money with them. She had them go to, 19. She had him go to sleep in her lap. Now, if you don't believe me that he's playing her, why in the world would you tell her that, hey, cut my hair, see what happens, and then you go right to sleep in her lap? You put your head right where you wanted it to be, okay? We all know that that's not where his strength comes from because you're going to see why in a minute he does what he does, okay? So, 18, when Delilah saw that he had really confined her, she sent, I read all that already. They said the chiefs of the Philistines came up and brought money with them. She had him go to sleep in her lap and called for a man to shave off his 7 locks of hair. Then she began tormenting him. But his strength had gone away. That means that the Most High, wasn't with him. Has nothing to do with his hair. The Most High wasn't with him. All right? The 2 different things. She said, Shimshon, the Philistines have come for you. He awoke from his sleep and said, I'll get out of this time. Because why is he saying that? Because it's not connected to this hair. It's connected to the Most High. Okay? I'll get out of this time because I know it comes from a different place. Just as I shook myself loose before, but he didn't know that Yahweh had left him. Now that makes sense. Makes sense why he responds that way. Because it's from Yahweh, not from his hair. He was just feeding her a line like he had done every other time. So what he was planning on was saying, she's going to cut my hair and I'm going to put my head in her lap. And if Yahweh decides that I shouldn't have any power, then he will decide that I won't have any power. I'll keep this charade up going on 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more times until I get an opportunity. Has nothing to do with his hair. All right. So we say this. She said, Shimshon, the Philistines have come for you. He awoke from his sleep. I'll get out this time, just as I shook myself loose before. But he didn't know that Yahweh had left in 21. So the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. That's why I had you touch your neighbor and say, trust, because from here on out, as he's captured, he is on the Most High. There is nothing in him right now. The power of the Most High has left him. He doesn't have any strength. He's completely vulnerable. He's put himself now in a position where he's in now because he's in the midst of the Philistine. Whatever happens from here on, The Most High orchestrates. He is not in control. He is not in control. I'm looking at you, my opulent teacher. We're going to come back to this. He is not in control. The Most High is. And there's a reason why I'm looking at you for that. You're going to help me out later on once you see this. Okay. It gouged out his eyes and took him to Azah. Then they bound him with 2 bronze chains and put him to work grinding grain at the mill in the prison. However, after the hair on his head had been cut off, it began to grow back. Don't think that that's when he's getting his strength. That is to prove to you what I said earlier, which is he is going to be a Nazir till he dies. He doesn't violate the mitzvot. Even behind enemy lines, he doesn't. His hair is growing back because he has to fulfill it. Till his death, he has to be a Nazir. That means his hair has to be long. All right? The chiefs of the Philistines assembled to offer their great sacrifice to the El Dagon as they celebrated and sang. So, our El, or our God, handed over to us our enemy, Shimshom. They singing this. Dr. Drayden came out with a new beat, and then they singing this right now. Upon seeing him, the people praised their God, little God. Our little God has handed over to us our enemy, who has destroyed our land and killed so many of us. When they were in the high spirits, they said, summon Shimshon to amuse us. Bring this clown in here that we've conquered in the name of Dagon so he can amuse us. Let's look at this spectacle. So they called Shimshon out of the prison, and he amused them. Why would he do that? We are on a military mission, y'all. Come on, remember. It brings everybody together. That's right. I'm going to amuse you till the time is right. When I got everybody here and we all on one accord. All right? So Shimshon said to the boy, holding him by the hand. This is a festival of Dagon, so everybody's here at this one. It says, let me feel the columns supporting the building so that I can lean on them. The building was full of men and women. The building was full of men and women. Listen to this. The building was full of men and women, and all the chiefs of the Philistine were there. In addition to them, there were about 3,000 men and women on the roof. Don't look at that like there was 3,000 people that he killed that's coming up here. It was way more than that. That was just what was on the roof. I don't know how many people you can probably get on the roof of, the stadium downtown for the Sacramento Kings, or at the Potter's house, or wherever else it is, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be hard-pressed to get 3,000 people up there. So this edifice was pretty big, and you had people underneath. So Shimshon called to Yahweh. Now, if his strength was in his hair, why is he calling to Yahweh? Yahweh, Elohim, just this once, please think of me, and please give me strength so I can take revenge on the Philistine for at least one of my 2 eyes. All right? Yahweh, I don't know what you're getting ready to do, but give me some strength so I can get this over with. I'm supposed to pick my battles. This is the battle. This is the opportune time. Let's execute it right now. Let's do this mission complete. Shimshon got a good hold on the 2 middle columns supporting the building and leaned on them. On one of his right hand and on the other with his left. Then crying, let me die with the Philistine. Is he a Nazarite? Yes, he is. His hair grew back. The text is very specific when it says that, doesn't it? It says his hair grew back. So he was a Nazarite till his death. As it was prophesied by the angel, he completed his whole entire mission. Look at this. He pushed with all of his might And the building collapsed on the chief and the people inside. So he killed more at his death than he had killed during his life. His brothers and all his father's family came down, took him, brought him up, and buried him between Zoar and Eshtaol, that's in the Philistine area, in the tomb of his father Manoach. And he had judged Israel for 20 years. Now, I can say, mission complete. I've picked my battle, and now I've made a dent in the Philistine to start and set up everyone else coming in behind me, who's, I think the demise of the actual Philistines happens when King David is around. If I'm quoting that correctly, I'm looking at my resident experts that are here on that. But that's when that happens. But I want to tell you something. I want to read this with you together. I learned that Shimshom put his complete trust in the Most High when he was under the oppression of the Philistine when he got captured, right? When he got his eyes burned out. Can you imagine getting your eyes burned out? For the mission, he was able to be faithful and trusted that the Most High was going to give him an opportunity. Even with his eyes burned out, he was willing to stoop to whatever level he needed to go to complete the mission. He trusted in the Most High. You know who taught me that? Christians. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 32. Because when you get over on their side of the street, they actually profess the same thing, but they don't teach it to y'all that way. That's the jacked up part about it, is everything that I just got done in here explaining to you, all the backstory behind it, is in the New Testament. And they know it. Let's read. Let's go up a little. As a matter of fact, it's a great place. It says, who is talking here? Rabbi Shaul says, what more should I say? There isn't time to talk about Yerubbaal, which is who? Gideon. What book are we in? We're in the book of Shof'tim. We're in the book of Judges. Barak. Who was Barak associated with? And not Obama. Who is Barak associated with? Devorah. The judge Devorah. Shimshon. We just went through Shimshon. Yiftach. Who is he? He's the judge that comes before before Shimshon. David, Shemuel, and the prophets, who through what? Trusting. They explain it to you like that he's a buffoon. Why are you explaining to people that he's a buffoon when obviously in your own text, if you read it, he trusted? You don't teach him from that standpoint. He trusted, they conquered kingdoms, worked righteousness, received what was promised. Now, when you got explained Shimshon, did they ever explain it from that perspective? No. Received was what was promised, shut the mouths of lions. I wonder who that is talking about. What judge is that? Shimshon. Quenched the power. Who is the lion? The lion is the Philistines. Okay? Quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, had their weakness turned into strength, grew mighty in battle, routed foreign armies. Has Shimshon or the Christian Samson been explained to you like that? No. By your own text, you profess a different story about the guy that you're demeaning. It says women received, for foreign armies. I'm going to stop right there. Okay? It's just ironic to me that we've been sitting under, and that's the same thing when I brought out the issue talking about in Hebrews, where they said it's weak and ineffective and it's been done away with. Here's another one where we have opulent patriarchs mentioned in text, mentioned how they are being used by the Most High with righteousness, and we are not presented a clear picture of them in that light. Anybody that wants to argue with you, that can't get into the deep waters, not to say that they can't comprehend because they don't have the cognitive ability to do, because I believe that they do, but they don't want to get into it, direct them to their own text. and then ask them, has your pastor ever got up in front of you and taught any of these people like that? No, he hasn't. And I wonder why. Okay? There's a full court press to suppress the truth about your ancestors. That brings us to the end of Shimshom and our last judge that's mentioned in the book of Shof'tim. I hope that you have, out of this study, got a different opinion and view and outlook of your ancestor and patriarch. He was not a person that was angry. He was not a person that was naive. He wasn't controlled by women. He wasn't a person that violated the mitzvot. He stayed true to what he was to the day that he died. He trusted in the Most High. He put his faith in the Most High. Even in his dire issue of being behind enemy lines, he knew that the Most High was going to give him an opportunity upon which he was going to be able to fulfill what his destiny was. This is your ancestor. We see all of the military, strategic prowess that he went on to establish his pedigree. Your patriarch and ancestor is cold-blooded. This teaching I will share something with you. I'll share it with my wife, and I will share it with the rest of my kinsmen. You see this book? This book has a lot of notes in it. The teaching that you've heard over the last 2 weeks was not done by me. Not at all. And the reason why I'm bringing up this book is because when I did my initial teaching last week on Shimshom, I had about 10 pages of notes, and I didn't use not one of them last week because the Most High imparted wisdom the day before I was supposed to talk. The things that the Most High is revealing in this house to a select group of individuals that are going out into the world and over the stream that are seeing this to our descendants is starting to turn the minds and hearts of people back to Hebraic minds and cultures. There may be a few of us in here right now, but the impact that we have in clearly looking at applying the mitzvot correctly to text gains us this ability to walk in what the Most High calls being set apart. There's a teaching that's there, that's out there, that the remnant has. There are a lot of Hebrew Israelites out there that are still dipping and dabbing and got their one foot in the Christianity and got the other one in Hebrewism, and everybody's looking to them like they're the spokespersons for all of us. Being Hebraic is not a monolith. We are purists. We are organic. We build everything on every word of the Most High. So I want to bless you today by telling all of you, and it is by no coincidence that the chapter that this comes from the chapter of the Nazir in chapter 6 prior to this. I'm going to read to you Bad Midbar chapter 6 verses 24 through 26, but in Bad Midbar chapter 6 verses 1 through 25, it talks about the Nazir. And it simply reads, Yiverekaka, Yahweh v'yishmareka, Ya'er Yahweh panav eleka v'chuneka, Yisa panav eleka v'yasa, laka shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh lift up his face towards you and show you his favor. May Yahweh lift up his face towards you. Wait a minute, let me go back. May Yahweh make his face shine on you and show you his favor. May Yahweh lift up his face towards you and give you shalom. With that, I say thank you, thank you, thank you.